Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Libby Book Club. I'm your host, David Allan-Petale, and our guest tonight is Andrew H.C. McDonald for his book, The Montegiallo School of Swearing. Andrew, welcome to the Libby Book Club. How are you going?
Very well, absolute pleasure.
That's great to have you. And before we dive in, I just want to acknowledge that we're broadcasting tonight from the traditional lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and I want to pay my respects to elders past and present. And of course, this is brought to you for free by Overdrive Australia, Libby, and of course, the State Library of WA. Andrew's book, The Monticello School of Swearing, is actually available all this month through Libby, which I'm sure everybody here has either got or has it on the top of their list, with no holds. You can just pick it up and get it straight to your device, and you pretty much just skip the queue. You get straight to the front of the queue, which is fantastic. And tonight, as always, we've got an hour to chat to Andrew. Anything we want to talk about. He's open to any questions in the chat, and I'll do my best to weave them in. And also, we've got a copy of the book to give away to the best question. And we're going to define the best question tonight, I think, Andrew, is the one that sparks the most interesting answer.
Yep.
So, a bit of a challenge for us. Or also the one that sparks probably I don't know, the most offensive swear word. So I just do want to say, uh, language warning at the start. This we are going to discuss swearing. It's an intrinsic part of this book, but fear not, it's swearing in the service of literature. So Andrew,
And humor, and
thank
humor.
you. Absolutely. Now, Andrew, could you tell us a little bit about what the Monticello School of Swearing is about? Because there'll be people who are joining us tonight that have either read it or they're halfway through or they're thinking about it. But you created this world, you created this character. What's it all about?
Uh, well, do you want the sort of more theoretical one, or do you want the elevator pitch? Which would you like?
Let's go the theory. Yeah.
Right, so it's a little about how we use language and also clothing in the book as the masks that we wear in the world. And it's also about if anyone who's learned a language knows that those taboo words are really, really irresistible in the other language. And this is a story where that gets a little bit out of control.
I love that. Well, I'll read the elevator pitch on the back because I think that chimes quite well. So it's when an English teacher, Brian Chapman, accidentally purchases a €1 villa after a big night out, it lands him with a headache much bigger than any hangover. Still sore from a recent divorce and armed only with a battered edition of personal Italian grammar, Brian sets out to create himself anew in Sicily, a man who's competent at both home renovation and cultural integration. Can Brian successfully execute his idea fantastica while wooing the formidably glamorous Viviana Messina and preventing Monticello from descending into utter chaos? Now, when we meet Brian, he's very much he's not in a good place, but at the same time, he's also not the real Brian. He's wearing that mask. He's wearing that heaviness about him, isn't he?
Well, we're all wearing the masks. It's just that sometimes if you can put on a better one, it makes a big difference. And even just changing your clothes or the way you're speaking or your location is what you need to do to be that other person.
And sometimes all it takes is going out and getting drunk with your mate and uh,
Yeah.
signing up to something that I have often seen in the news or offered online and thought, hmm.
Scam or not scam? Well, it's actually been going for decades in various parts of Italy. I set this one in Sicily because at the moment, if you were to do a €1 mansion, that's where it would be. But it has happened in various other places, in rural Italy, and they even copied it here in Western Australia in Bruce Rock in the 1980s. They sort of copied it, and you could get a block in Bruce Rock for $1 if you paid the rates.
Were you ever, I mean, you're originally from an area near Bruce Rock. Were you ever tempted yourself? Well,
I
you're a
don't
bit
think.
younger in the 80s, but yeah.
Not sure I'll be going back to live in Bruce. Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows? But uh, I guess it's the same sort of thing for Bruce Rock as it is in Italy as well. The rural areas can suffer, and people go to the cities, or the young people leave, and it's a sort of same drain that we've experienced here. I guess there's a lot more of those small towns in Italy, but it's an interesting thing to do. It's been going for a long, long time, and it's quite an interesting thing. Researching it, the actual realities of it is very interesting as well.
And you've been to Italy as a tourist, as a visitor, many times. But would you personally have you ever looked at that and thought, "Ooh, I wonder if I could do that"? Was that part of the inspiration for the book?
Well, lots of people have said, "Oh, I feel like doing it now after reading the book." But it's
Yeah.
um, you need to have an income, I think, because there's not really much work. I think the rules change quite often and they're always threatening in Italy to change the visitor work visas and things like that. If you had an income or you could earn an income from online or something like that, it could be really, really good to do. You're not going over there and work working. It's like, I don't know, if you're tiny little rural town in the wheat belt here, if you move there, you might get some wheat bin work, but yeah, you need to have, if you had an income and were able to be free to do that, it could be really good.
I suppose that's part of the fun of watching a show like Grand Designs. You want to see them succeed, but also you want to. There's always that, it rains for 6 months, or they get pregnant with triplets, in
Yep, yep.
halfway through the pouring of the concrete. There's always that complication. Was it kind of was it fun to put Brian through the ringer even more so in this situation?
Yes, and I think also which would be different from me moving to Bruce Rock, moving to a different culture, that's even more so than the actual problems with the plumbing and all that. That's in such a small community, sometimes just being ignored is going to be the best that you can do. So the work you have to do to become part, at least you're never going to be a local, but to be accepted into the community is just as much work as trying to get that plumbing fixed.
Now, Andrew, we've got some great questions in the chat already. It's actually going off, which is quite
Okay.
good. So,
Harder
Jordan,
the better.
yeah, Jordana Jordanovska is asking, where did the idea for the book come from, and what's your relationship to swearing?
Okay, so there's a specific example that I've been using. So when I went to school, high school at a Catholic school in the hills around Perth, and been grade eight, first year high school, grade seven, grade eight, somewhere around there, and we had a exchange student from Mexico come, Catholic thing of some kind, and he had zero English. Okay? So the first words we schoolboys, all boys school, first words we schoolboys taught him, well, you probably guess what they were. Um, but he would perform them like an opera singer, and he was so delighted with the reception he got from us kids. Not quite as happy with the teacher's reaction, but he would, if I can actually do what Julio would do, it'd be a Yuva Kinka! Yuva Kinka! And we would just roll about laughing. And when you don't have the tone and the meaning of it, it's such a different thing to swear in your own language and it's sort of detached, but you still know they're powerful, but it's like, whoa, whoa.
Mm. It's kind of a skeleton key to the enjoyment
Yeah.
of language, isn't it?
Without the baggage of, if I was to swear in English, is all that baggage and the tone is there and you can be insulting or not quite or very or friendly with just those same words. When it's the foreign tongue, you don't have it. So you're sort of on thin ice, but it's really good.
Right. So to get Brian to, I suppose, to that new opening, that door into the culture, that way that he can actually get into the local area. First, he's got to go through the ringer with the house. So he goes from Melbourne. He's got $30,000 to his name after his terrible divorce. His mates in his ear saying you're crazy. He gets there and finds the house. Can you describe to us what the house is like? I mean, I love that it's got 7 toilets and only one of them works.
Well, that house in some ways is based on my brother's Italian mansion in Rye in Victoria. which is a 1980s mansion. So some of the elements in the book are from there. The gold bidet was
Yeah.
in his house. Becky, the wood burning stove, is from there. Um, the rest of it was from, I did research in these €1 ones, okay? A lot of them are fairly run down, and I think they deliberately show it kind of badly so that you don't have any expectations of it. So a lot of them were some Sicilian towns. Here's the €1 one, a little bit of this one, a little bit of that one. Or my brother's house also had 6 toilets as well for some unknown reason.
6 toilets.
Six. The Italians, big family. I might need a good
Right.
sewerage system.
No, why not? No, no. I particularly liked the detail when Brian's looking at the photos where they're like, why can't they ever use the flash on these photos? All you can see is just weird scrap metal in the basement. It looks terrible. Yeah.
And that's what the photos were like. They actually did look quite terrible. And as again, I think maybe that's deliberate, so you don't turn up there thinking, "Oh, this is like supposed to be really good." And basically, blue sky. All of them are exposed for the fantastic looking blue sky outside, and the inside is sort of dusty, whatever that they might not want to show exactly.
And can you tell us a bit about Monticello? I hope I'm saying that right. It's
Montegiallo, Mount Yellow. So yes, yep, that's good. I went through a lot of different towns and I wanted to be Monterosso first, but there's a very famous Monterosso in Italy, so it could Italian friend said no, it can't be that. And there's various Montezzuros and around, so um, settled on Monticello and Mount Yellow sort of feels like that's how it should be. It should have been in the beginning. So there's a hiking mountain, Montegiallo, in north of Italy, but there's no other sort of major towns called that.
Now, we've got another question from Janana, which I was going to get to as well. Who are your favorite characters to write? Because I enjoyed all the characters. In particular, Viviana. I think she's described as formidably glamorous.
I like that. I'm not sure who wrote the back cover blurb, but the
Yeah.
formidably glamorous is a really, really good description of her. Um, I really like Brian was a little bit difficult because first he was going to be really funny and wisecracking. And I then decided that he wouldn't say a single funny thing in the whole book. And as soon as I decided that, he just wrote himself. He tries, every time he tries to be funny, it just falls flat. Funny, crazy things happen around him, but he's just not quite got the sense of humor. Really enjoyed that. Also, Gianni just steals the show. Gianni, the
Oh,
young plumber, as soon as he gets a taste for swearing, he pretty well steals every scene that he's in.
that's lovely. That's lovely. So, can you tell us a little bit as well about the idea for a school of swearing? Because my father's Italian, my last name's Patali, so I grew up having after school Italian lessons just slammed into me, like in the hope that I would speak the mother tongue. I only ever got a taste for the food though. I have the hand gestures and that kind of thing. But a school for swearing, we would have loved that. We were forbidden from that. So the story tells before you, Mexican friend. Did you ever want to have your own school of swearing?
Well, look, after writing, I think it could work. If I went past a pub and it says learn German swearing tonight, I would probably go in there. Um, it's, I think because those words are taboo, and when I speak bad Italian, I speak bad Mandarin Chinese as well. And uh, those words, you just can't seem to take your eyes off them. But particularly with Chinese, well, they're just saying these two bare syllables. Um, just not knowing the power they have and the looks on someone's faces when they hear it of their own word, and because you don't have the tone. For example, turtle is a really strong swear word in Chinese. And
Turtle.
them, yeah, and most of these things they don't have any meaning. It's just the tone, only the tone. And so, yeah, turtle is a strong, quite a strong swear word, but they don't have a meaning. And like the sexual ones in English, they're mostly all pretty good activities, you know. So the actual real meaning of them is detached from the tone.
It's true, isn't it? It's the feeling of the swear
Yeah.
rather than the actual meaning.
I like it's the difference between turtle and turtle.
And you mentioned as well, Andrew, that you had a swearing consultant because we've got a question
Yeah.
from Randy Gravitz. He's saying, "Do you speak more Italian than our protagonist? And have you spent any time in Sicily? Yeah, how did you get to know the language and the swearing?"
My level of Italian is pretty much exactly what Brian's is in the book. And the book is the same book I had in primary school with a slight change of name. It's actually progressive Italian grammar. Um, my Italian is intermediate, as is my Chinese, even despite long years of learning. Um, so I liked that his Italian was the same level as mine because I gave he the things he doesn't get, I probably wouldn't get, and just enough to almost get by was just the right level for him, whereas none maybe wouldn't have worked so much, and being much more fluent wouldn't have worked as well. So I think it was just the right balance, and it's my own. I haven't been to Sicily. I've been to other rural parts of Italy, and apart from the research I did, they there's a lot of those small rural towns which they all have those same elements, and same as for Sicily as for in Tuscany, Umbria, and other areas like that. The old men with the hats and the polished shoes and the ties and the piazza and the church and the coffee bar, they've all sort of got
So
those. And it's like I was saying to someone the other day, it's like Italian food. It all has to be as it should be. You know,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
If in Australian, oh, why don't we throw some, I don't know, we'll throw some pumpkin into that,
Right.
which we do here, and it's great. But there, things have to be as they are, and even the towns and how they are. Um, they're almost like the recipe for small town, and Italy, they have to be done properly.
And what is it about Italian culture that, in a way, breaks Brian, that gets him to, as you say, wear a better mask?
Oh, what gets him? Look, I think he wants to be part of the community, and one of the things in that he gets told is that, oh no, if you're here for 200 years you might become part of the community, and he says, really? They said no. And there's one of the characters said, well, so and so, the barman, Paolo the barman, one of his relatives might have come from France maybe in the 16th century. Some people still call him the Frenchman. So
Uh,
it's you're not going to be a local. I think coming to Australia, it would be easy to be a local, after a few years. There, small town, maybe cities would be different. In a small town, you're never, ever, ever going to be a local. You might be accepted, you might be loved, but you're never going to be local. Your kids are not going to be local. Your grandkids are not be local. Great grandkids, probably not locals either.
On the flip side of that, we've got Bradley Rayner saying integrating into the community was integral for Brian's success. How do you integrate into your community? Because Andrew, you do quite a lot of different things. In addition to writing literature, you're also a photographer, an artist, and a performer. You are a multi-talented person who, you have done a lot of things. Can you tell us a bit about how you yourself have found your tribe, your community?
Well, a lot of those things that I do, and I've only been thinking about this since doing the book. So, photographer, stand-up comedy, I did for about 10 years, visual artist, writer, they're all intensely individualistic things. So, I don't know if there's any um, psychoanalysis that needs to be in that. All of those are only singular, even though there's a massive team for writing. So I don't know that I do. I don't know that I do integrate in the community because all of those things are obsessively individual.
Yeah. And I guess that's the question. Do you have to integrate into the community to be part of it? Because Brian eventually just goes, well, I'm just going to bring what I know, right? I'm
Well,
going to teach you the swearing.
well, I mean, he has to, and that's putting him in that situation of having to, because, if you don't have to, especially with another language, another community, learning another language, you have to accept that you're going to embarrass yourself often. And if you're not forced into that situation, you're probably not going to do it. So putting him in there where he has to sink or swim somehow or can't go crawling back to Melbourne minus his deposit.
Actually, that's I guess a technical question. The deposit, it's $5,000, but it's if he doesn't undertake the repairs, he loses that. But if he does, what the deposit's used for those repairs, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So that's how it does work. I think it's actually 5,000 euros. So it's about 8 grand. So that's what it was at the moment. There's various ways that works, but at the moment, he you can't just pay the euro €1 and it's yours, and you can wander over there whenever you feel like it and do whatever you want. They want it to money to come into the town from it. So if you that money, you can use it to renovate the place. Once you start doing that, that's it. If you don't, then it's not really yours.
And maybe a little philosophical question, but is there something to be said of, Brian was living, basically in a rented place in Melbourne. It wasn't truly a place that was his own. And even though he's not paid much money and he's, everything's quite painful when he's over in Italy, this is something that's his. It's the process of building this house, of renovating this house. He's grasping life in a very
Yeah.
different way, isn't
Well,
he?
it's worse than rental. It was the apartment that they owned, his wife owns. It's actually worse than a rental, so it's getting sold out from under him basically, and he doesn't get much decent share of it.
Mm. And have you yourself ever renovated a home? Have you been through the horrors of, skirting boards and re-stumping a house, that kind of thing, and but also enjoyed the process, even though it's difficult?
Only very, very minor sort of stuff. Nothing major. I think with those things, if you get to do it twice, you could actually do it well. The first time for any of those, all those mistakes you made, and I think if I did a second one, I could actually do it. But yeah, I'm kind of sort of with Brian. I could do a little bit, and sometimes he got to help with the plumbing, but the tiler says no, you've got to have it in your fingers, Dottore. You can't do the tiling. So yeah, that would be me as well.
Can I return as well to the question about your swearing consultant?
Oh yeah,
You
yes,
worked,
definitely.
you worked with experts to get the swearing not just grammatically correct, but also it's cultural. It's all the cultural context there.
So yes, so I had a Italian swearing consultant. So it's Dottoressa Agnese Bresson in Melbourne. He's a linguist there. Um, Also proofed some Italian. I still left a few mistakes in there, as any Italian speaker will probably point out to me. There's a few mistakes, but I just looked a website of Italian swearing because I wasn't really that familiar with all but a few of them. And I had ones that I wanted in there. And she disagreed with some of them, said, no, that's not right. Let's try this one. And the ones that she came up with were really ended up really, really good. They just had to be the right side of funny without being too offensive. I'll
Yeah.
tell you one that I wanted in, but she didn't like. So it's Tu mamma ha urinato stando in piedi. And that's was your mother urinated standing up. She didn't like that one. So she said, what about, I got a better one. What about this? And let
Yeah.
me find it. Um, Tua madre faceva le speccate sulla pannocchie. And that one is your mother did the splits on corn cobs. And she was correct. That was better.
These are almost like Monty Python-esque, like yeah,
Well, they've got a lot better swearing. It's not
yeah.
more than we have here.
We have
Yeah,
direct derogatory terms, really. These
yeah.
are colorful and vibrant, and you can gauge something from it.
Yeah, I think that in general, they are more interesting than English language swearing. So, and yeah, so we had a lot of back and forth with swearing, and that was really, really good part of it. We had a really lot of fun with that as well.
I I do remember though, I was in a pub once and I just heard a guy go, "Blow it out your ass," and I couldn't stop laughing for about half an hour. It was an incredibly serious moment, but it was
Well, one of
yeah,
the ones that I'm trying to bring back, which is a swearing from the 1970s, which is no whackers. And some people don't remember that.
What was a swear? Wow, I
Well,
thought
it's
it
a
was a warrant. Yeah.
it does, but it's actually a spoonerism. It's really quite interesting. It's no Wacken furries was the original
Gotcha.
thing. It's the
Yeah.
spoonerism. So it's no Wacken worries. Change around to no Wacken furries, then no Wackers, and then even no Wacks. So I'm bringing it back. No Wackers is back, baby.
It's a nice swear. That's a kind of it's got literary merit. It's got it's got some stuff. Well, Andrew, the one that we all kind of know is fangul. Yeah, fangul. What's one that you gravitated toward that you would use in everyday life? That you I don't know that you would maybe teach at your own school of swearing.
Oh, what would I do? I wouldn't be doing the mother with the corn cobs. I
No.
don't think. I don't know what the. I mean, I think I I thought it was more amusing the Italians doing the English and trying it out on the expats and things. I found that more so earnestly doing their English language swearing and learning and practicing. What would I do? I don't know. I don't know which one I'd actually do of the Italian. Um, what was that? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure which Italian one I'd use. Probably, I'm not confident enough as Brian. Maybe if I had a few of those red wines, Sicilian red wines, I could do a few more.
Yeah. I love that when he was in Melbourne fantasizing about his new life in Italy where he would be drinking volcanic red wines from the soil and he's like don't get too carried away but he did get carried away didn't he had a very particular vision and then he gets there and it's very different.
Yeah, and I think that's how it is as well. And particularly when, close up, it's a crumbling town, and some of those small towns, they are beautiful, but falling down, and
Beautiful role.
at two or three out of four of the houses, there's nobody in them, and there probably never will be for some of them as well.
Yeah. We've got some more questions in the chat, which is great. So Louise is saying German has some quality swear words.
Oh, like what? Give me one.
Yeah, come on, Louise. You got to give us one.
I'll
I
see if
do
I can
like the
pronounce it.
German concept words like Schadenfreude and all those kinds of things, where it's, but Louise was also asking, why did you decide that Brian would be an English teacher? What was it about that profession that lended itself to his character? And was he based on anyone?
He's not based on anyone, but I just sort of chose one at random. It's sort of a uh, like a profession at random, and it just worked out so well. Every part of that worked well. The runner-up in the Teacher of the Year that rankles so much, he doesn't win that. And when he came uh, to Sicily, um, I was just looking up some street names at random from small towns, and one of them was Via Virgilio Marone, and I said, "No, well, Who's that?" And then turned out that's Virgil. That's Virgil's name, and he would have taught that in year 12. He would have taught Dante in there. So everything that all that came together. It wasn't didn't have to be a teacher at first, but as soon as I thought of being the runner-up and Teacher of the Year and never not quite getting there, uh, it all worked, and then all that flowed into him teaching the swearing and all that because he wants to teach English or he doesn't want to, but he feels he has to. But no one's up for that, but they're up for the parolacce, the swearing.
Andrew, is there an extract you could read to us from your work?
Yes.
We'd
I'll,
love to hear
all
your
right,
voice
all right.
backing some of this.
I'll only be able to wave one hand Italian style in this because there's a little bit of Italian because I got to have the book up. All right. As Brian began crossing the piazza, a man emerged from Bar Limone with a small cup of coffee and an even smaller saucer and sat at one of the benches. He was almost comically big, sturdy and solid like the building surrounding them. A stained apron inadequately covered black shirt and trousers. Dark hair sprouted on his brown arms and from the neck of his shirt. Brian half thought of going into the bar, especially as it looked like you could get coffee there, but the exterior, even in daylight, was a little forbidding. He stopped in front of the seated giant. No time like now for some Italian interaction. Here goes nothing. He cleared his throat and began hesitantly. Buongiorno. The man's eyebrows contracted towards the bridge of a nose that could have ruddered a small boat. He rumbled something in a low voice that Brian couldn't catch. He wished he'd brought his Italian book with him. Io sono inglese? The man asked. English? Americano? Australian. I mean, Australiano. I've just bought. He pointed back his palazzo. So the foreigners have made it to the top of the hill now. Ha! The Colossus said in heavily accented English. Americans, English, fuckers, all fuckers. Without saying another word, the man got up and, taking his cup and saucer with him, stomped back into Bar Limone. Australian, actually, Brian called hopelessly after him. Fracasa. Did that mean what he thought it meant? Brian was not sure what to make of this outburst. Perhaps subconsciously and almost certainly arrogantly, he had assumed he'd be received as some kind of minor savior, revitalizing a struggling town and all that. He decided to keep his head down and his mouth shut for the moment. Just the first day, after all. But Bakaza, whoa!
It's lovely. Thank you, Andrew. That's great swearing too. So the audio book, I haven't listened to the audiobook. I read the physical, but were you happy with it's Cal Gordon who does all that? I know here he's like yourself, he can switch the accents. Were you happy with the result?
I absolutely loved it. I was so nervous listening to it the first time. It's so funny, so strange hearing those you written words, someone else's interpretation and voice. After about 10 minutes, he really gets into it. Just a fantastic Toby at the beginning. I really like it. I'm really glad that he did it and he got the humor and he leans into the accents just the right amount. I was really pleased with it.
Nice, nice. Now, when it comes to hearing your own work, because when we just heard you, there are all those rhythms coming out. This book is almost made to be read out loud. So the strength of the narrator, I loved all the little narrative flushes, the humor, that line, the no, you know, nose is big enough to rudder a ship. It's just I'm constantly reading it, constantly being surprised by the humor, just being ambushed by it all the time. Was that fun to do? That you could, it's not whimsical, it's clever, it's witty, it's crafty. So was it hard to be on that line? You didn't want to make it like a madcap adventure, but it's also it's just funny all the time.
Well, I wanted to write something funny, and I wanted also to be. I mean, the world wasn't even bad as it is now when I was writing. I wanted Montegiallo to be a place that people can go to in this world, um, where it's not the threat of the world war or genocide or whatever it might be that's going on. It's a place that you can visit. People's problems are serious, but they're ridiculous and absurd, and they're not existential. So that's why I don't have any historical things in there. It's sort of a little bit timeless, sort of a bit Brigadoon in there. So what was the first part of the question? Sorry, I've lost my train of thought.
It was just keeping the humor,
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
discipline of the humor, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, 10 years of stand-up will do that for you because it is such a disciplined, you, it, it has to be exactly right for stand-up. And I think the timing for and discipline of doing that on stage where it can go hideously wrong um, is really, really helped with that. I mean, it's been talking to people about this before. When you stand up is the most extreme form of public speaking, and some many people can't do it or can't it would rather be burnt than, than do that on stage. And it can be a really full-on thing, but it's all yours. If it's all bad, if it goes wrong, it's yours. If it goes right, it's all yours. It's not quite the same with writing the book. It's a step down in stress level because it's such a team working on it. And you get to edit and you get to change and things like that. But um, I like comic stuff. I like timing. I like performance. I like people who are really good performers and the timing and discipline of that. I tried to put into this as well.
Andrew, a question from Georgia, which I think segues really neatly because humor is the heart of the book, but also friendship and love, and also in a way faith. So she said, Georgia says, I love the priest in his tiny car. He's a great character. What role does faith play in your novel? Because he's the wingman too. He's the
He's the
wingman.
wingman. It's based on a parish priest we had in Kalamunda in the 1970s. I guess he's long gone now, but he was such a lovely, lovely man. Um, Brian doesn't abandon his atheism, but he still gets kind of accepted sitting at the back of the church like that as well. He doesn't have a faith, but he's willing. He doesn't go to church in Melbourne, so he's an atheist. But over there, he says, "Well, look, if I'm going to do everything I can to be part of this community, I'm going to go to the church and I'm going to listen to the prayers and I'm going to actually do that." So, I mean, part of Catholic faith, I mean, part of it is the showing up and doing it is a big part of it, and maybe you'll get to believe it in the end, and maybe you won't. But yeah, he gets first real acceptance from the priest. Like he thinks he probably needs all the customers he can get, a little cynically. But yeah, he's a nice guy, and yeah, based on a lovely um, father, Dominic, when I was growing up, and the church and Italian bureaucracy get a pretty good run in this.
Yeah.
Some people will say, expats there, that the bureaucracy side can be a lot of red tape and difficulty. And there's all the Catholic Church stories as well. It wasn't that story. Um, Not that there's anything wrong with those stories that do go into all that stuff. Um, it's a different story to that. And it's with the editing process, they said it needed the love story side needed to be a bit more developed, and that was correct, and it's much better for that as well. So yeah, so I don't know, Faith. I don't know if he's going to be a believer, but he
Yeah.
everyone's fine with it.
Yeah. And just continuing that, Viviana, she's the devil woman. She's, she's told, he's told, Brian's told she's bad news, but there's something about her, isn't there? There's something about her that intrigues him, though she's quite scary at the same
She,
time. Too.
it's quite scary. Expats are all terrified of her. Um, she's I think because he embarrasses himself so much in their first meeting and trying his Italian and getting it wrong and just embarrassing himself, that's sort of
I,
it's
I
the
agree with
bond.
that. Yeah. Was Viviana fun to write in the sense that, she is this incredibly complex, but also the acid of her tongue
Yeah,
is
yeah.
glorious.
They were all good to write, but she was as well. And because it's a rom-com, they're going to get together in the end. But it's how is that going to happen between this bumbling idiot with this terrible Italian and this dead person suit that he's wearing? How is it going to get there? And that's the same with all sort of, and it's a bromance as well along the way. But and all those rom-coms, it's going to happen. How can you have the best possible journey to get there?
I like that. And then follow-up question as well from Bradley Rane saying, I love the freedom Brian's students embraced after his swearing lessons. Is that outcome like is there any research to back that up, or is that
There's
or generally the freedom is when you do swear, you can get out of your shell.
Yes, I think there is, and like he says, or I think Toby says to him, there are genuine. I'm just going to say legitimate, whether legitimate is the right word. There's genuine screaming therapy that you can get on your health insurance here, even in Australia. So that uh, that type of thing can reduce tensions and things as well. So um, things is actual swearing therapy, but I actually think that could be therapeutic if you were doing that. But there's plenty of rage rooms and screaming therapy. I mean, there are literally those things that you could do.
Like that. Like that. And Louise has actually come back with a German swear. She says, teenage me always like Dummkopf. Okay, idiot in my German lessons.
Oh, I could have got that from Hogan's Heroes.
Um,
Schweinhund as well. Yeah.
um, Peter Snow, OAM is asking, were you one of the lucky ones to be selected by Freo Press, or was the topic so off planet they couldn't refuse? Or did you pitch to other publishers?
No, and I usually say this just to annoy other writers because it was the first people I sent it to and they said yes.
Nice.
So there's a very small number that you can send just out of the blue manuscripts to, and they have a window, this fiction, this children's book, and UWA Press, and there's hardly anywhere you can send it, if unless you got an agent, and even it's tough even to get an agent to read it. So it's yeah. To annoy other would-be writers, I just keep saying, no, I sent it to them. First thing one I sent it to, and they said yes. I did a lot of work before. There's 15 full drafts before I sent it.
How
And
over how many years? How long did you develop for?
so also to annoy people, I say the first draft, 45,000 words, is in 38 days.
Nice.
As I knew what it was wanted to go. And so it was at least a year and a half of the editing to get it up to 70,000 and the final product. Um, and I had got as far as I could uh, with where I could go. So it needed editing after that time. And Ed George, my editor, it's fantastic. It's made a massive difference to the book.
Okay. And are there any books or writers that inspired you? I mean, I can kind of think like Captain Corelli's Mandolin or Zorba the Greek, that kind of fish out of water, but learning from another culture. Were there, or and
Uh,
which are also humorous too.
the one that mostly fit that was called Comfort Farm.
Oh, yeah, wow, that's a deep cut. Wow.
So which is 1932, I think, and it is still hilarious today. And Georgia editor made me read Pride and Prejudice again, which I hadn't read for 20 years. He said there's a scene missing from it, which you'll see in Pride and Prejudice. And so we got to see, and I knew exactly what she meant. And both of those, both Cold Comfort Farm and Pride and Prejudice, it's even though they have romance as part of it, it's this is a massive fucking problem, and how are they going to get through this? It does seems like there is no way out for it, and that's what I wanted to be. And right from the beginning of the editing, I said Cold Comfort Farm is the one I'm thinking of. Everyone gets redeemed as well in Cold Comfort Farm, and almost everyone in Pride and Prejudice
Yeah.
gets redeemed, and gets what they want, or what not what they want, but what they need as well. So those two are big influence. My favorite Australian book is The Brush Off, Shane Maloney. You know that there's it's crime, comedy crime. It's really, really good. It is Murray Whelan is a Labor Party sort of shit-kicking lowly politician's assistant, and murders happen around him where his boss is the Minister for the Arts and Water. They are really, really good books, and the humor in that. And I think there's a David Wenham series in as well for that. But
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
right.
Brush Off is the best of the series, but there's about five, I think, in the Murray Whelan series, and they're all really, really good. In the Melbourne 1980s sort of set time, 90s.
Yeah. And Andrew, do you have anything else in the works? It's you like this fairly burst out of you over
Yeah,
15 drafts, yes, but you knew
yeah,
what you wanted to do, and you
yeah,
you have written other things before, but not in a novel, but
yeah.
writing is part of who you are. Is there anything else
Well,
coming?
I want to see how this goes
Yeah,
first to see. I mean, I've got another notes for another one that I pretty well could write fairly quickly. I just want to go through the whole process of how this works. I mean, see whether it's worth it or not. There's a massive amount of work. And most people don't sell that many books. And again, for Libby, nothing an author likes to see more than massive downloads of for free for their book. That's lovely to
yeah.
see.
I think you've had more than 700, if I'm remembering that right, which is
Yeah,
fantastic.
It's really, really good. People are loving it. But to see whether it's worth it, how the process went, I would be the draft that got sent if I was submitting again would be a lot better. I didn't realize how much detail. It's the sentence by sentence deconstruction, basically the editing process. I mean, I didn't think things mattered in fiction so much, but does it really take 2 hours and 40 to catch a train from there to there? Would it cost that much to get a new BD in Sicily? Is it really that, you know, what time of day, this and that? Absolutely so detailed. So I'd get all of my facts right before the next one. I just want to see how it all goes. And
Yeah.
so far it's been a fantastic process. Um, and after all this attention, it'll move on. It'll be a bit of a come down when all the attention and the book launches and all interviews and all this finish. I want to see how it goes, and I probably will write something else, but just it will be shaped by how this whole thing went and how it ends up.
And can we talk about the book itself? What's been your favorite moment of having your book out in the world? Where have you seen it in a particular
Oh,
place that's given you shivers, or seen it in a particular spot that you love?
well, I doing all of the new author cliches, all of them. I have a pen with me at all times to sign it if I see someone reading it on the bus. Um, I Yeah, so I went to all the bookshops to see it on the shelves, did all of that cliche author stuff. Um, my brother-in-law saw it in a small shop in New Zealand. That was probably the best, is sending a picture from that.
Yeah,
So that was very nice, yeah.
that's lovely. Yeah, and I love the
And
cover. Yeah,
and I did write the second draft, basically. I did write in a very, very small town, about the same size as Montegiallo, but in New Zealand.
that's sort of yeah, closing the circle almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
And can we talk about the cover? It's I love it. It's very like I don't know, 1920s postcard. It's very you can feel the sun. You can hear the campanella. You can hear the church bells. And you
And
can
that
the washing. I love the washing on the line.
I love the vi little Viviana on the back with a mobile phone to her ear. That's the best bit.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
she's
the best bit.
deadly.
Um, the I love the cover. Cover is absolutely fantastic. I A lot of these things, and this is another thing I've learned, a lot of the decisions on design, blurbs, quotes, are about selling books to women. And I didn't understand that as well, but because women are such a big market for of book buying. Um, every time I say that to a man, said, no, no, I buy books. I buy plenty of books. And but I think sometimes it might be the 1986 Guinness Book of World Records, but uh, that's what those decisions are about. A lot of them are about that, which I didn't know. So I know that now as well. Um, but I absolutely love the cover. They did such a good job.
That's gorgeous. Yeah, and I don't know, like it's what would be advice you would have to someone who's we've got a lot of aspiring writers in the chat as well, some who have got books coming out soon. What would be, your advice to when you're submitting or when you're putting something together to get it in?
Um, don't put it in before it's ready. Okay, so as I said, I did 15 full drafts before I actually did submit it. And I think a lot of people will make the mistake of doing that. Friends and family are not good judges. Well, they're not going to give you bad news, or they're not going to give you actual criticism. If they like it, that's fine. And they may not, it probably shouldn't be put in that position either. Unless there's someone who's an expert reader, um, they're not reliable as far as giving you criticism that's actually worth something. So if uh, you can get manuscripts edited before submitting, there are people that do that. So you can look around for someone. If you get accepted by a publisher, you have the editor experience. But if you don't, and if you were going to self-publish, I would be getting that, paying the editor to do it, to give you the actual, the good, the bad, what's missing, what needs to go, because being inside it so much, you can't really judge it. Some of the things that you think flow fine just because it's in your brain doesn't work and has to be changed. And also, there's some legal things as well that if you self-publish that you could fall into the trap of. I did not know that you could quote the song titles, but you can't quote the lyrics without paying. It's all that sort of stuff too. Um, don't put it in till it's ready. Get a professional editor if you can. It's probably going to be cost you about 1,500 to 2,000 to properly edit a draft. And even for them, you don't want to give it to them before it's ready as well. So as much work as possible on it.
And to switch back to the book itself, I've got a great question here from Randy Gravitz. He says one of
Yeah.
my favorite characters who drops off towards the end is Skeletor. Uh,
Yes.
the what inspired you to have him accompany Brian on his quest?
So Skeletor's real. Getting Skeletor is what happened. I did have a Skeletor when I was at university. Um, and that particular exact Skeletor still exists. One of my friends has him in Queensland.
Like an
So
action. Yeah.
yeah, so the action figure, he's got a battle armor. You hit his chest, and from Masters of the Universe. So yeah, or maybe Skeletor can, if they commission a sequel, maybe Skeletor can take a leading role.
I mean, what's the significance of Brian having it? Because he bought it as an adult on a whim. He didn't. It's not
Yeah,
coming from when he was a kid.
yeah. Well, yeah, I didn't get it when I was a kid either. So you know, it's a friend. He's going somewhere where he has no contacts and no family and no one. Skeletor's a familiar friend, so that's what he was there for. Just a bit of moral or immoral support in Skeletor's case.
And just you said everyone gets, most people get a redemption. When you think about Monticello, you said this is a place that, you want people to come to. These characters are still, are very much going for you in your mind, or that, it's a place
Yeah.
you can visit and they're doing their thing. How is Brian? How is everything at home?
Well, yeah. Do they stay together? How's the swearing therapy go? So you can think of their future and how they're going to go. As I say, one of the things it is a little Brigadoon-like, whereas the story and it's once every 100 years someone wanders in. There's a movie of it, and it's just sort of captured in that time, and it's always going through the same sort of. It never. It's just in case, a little glass case as well. So um, it might, and I hope it has some longevity and like hopefully that in many years someone could pick it up and there's this little time capsule of a happy, absurd, ridiculous place they can visit as well. Like Cold Comfort Farm, you can still go to that farm.
We've got a lovely question here from Randy as well, saying it's great counterpoint to a very scary and serious book that he recently read, and he says the comedy was so relieving and comforting amid such scary work. From my other book club, we read this very heavy book.
What was
Um,
it?
it's called All the Glimmering Stars by Mark Sullivan, which is about kidnapping children as soldiers into the Lord's Resistance Army.
Oh my goodness.
Pretty heavy stuff, a big counterpoint. But I was
I,
going to
I
ask, what are you reading at the moment? That
I do read a lot of, well, I have to read all my colleagues, Fremantle Press colleagues. I'm through some of those. So I've just read Geraldine, Andrea Thompson. That was really good. And
She's coming up later this year as a guest
yeah,
on the book club
that
and Emily Paul.
really, really interesting book, Geraldine. So I'm getting through those. What I read generally, I like classic crime. Um, Maigret is one of my favorites. So,
Yeah.
and there's about 70 of them, so you can sort of keep recycling through those. The classic crime books. I like Le Carré as well. So Smiley's People is one of my favorites that I will read again and again as well.
I just read
I
the new
yeah,
one where his son
uh,
wrote in his style, and
yeah.
you can't tell.
Oh, he's yeah, well, that's great because he's a really, really good writer.
The humor as
And
well in the character, like
yeah,
just the
fun.
strange humor is
Yeah.
great.
Well, I mean, reading Pride and Prejudice again, it's really funny. It's
Yeah.
really, really funny looking at it that way. And because I hadn't seen I'd only seen the screen versions where it's all about the romance. The book is this, you're not even sure they even like each other in the
No.
book. Even after they get together, it's not entirely sure. But it's about solving that problem, as I was saying before. But it is very, very funny book.
I suppose a philosophical question. We're coming toward the end. Sorry, we've got 5 minutes to go somehow. So is life funny? I mean, I heard Robin Williams say once, life is open for play, and we can take life incredibly seriously, and that there are very lots of serious moments in your book, but at the same time, when Brian just bloody lets go, and he just goes with it. Yeah,
Oh, I think humans have got the ability to be happy, sad, funny in whatever the situation is. So you can be happy, you can be sad in almost any situation, rich, poor, whatever. So I think funny has to, not everyone can be funny. Brian can't be funny. Funny happens to him. And I guess if you want to be in that place, if you can't be funny, where funny will happen to you.
nice. And I suppose just as a final word, Andrew, what do you hope people come away feeling or thinking or having experienced, having read Montegiallo's School of Swearing?
I want it to be funny, but I just hope some people will get there's a little bit more underneath it than just a funny rom-com. There's just a little bit more about who we are and how we make ourselves under the surface that's just a little bit more than a light-hearted funny book.
Lovely. Thank you. Well, as I said, we're coming pretty well to the end of our time. We've got to pick, I think, our winner this week. What do you reckon? I think we had Louise WH. We had some really good conversations about the swear words and the German, and just deciding that Brian would be an English teacher. I think that was we cascaded from there. So,
I'm
so
fine with
Louise,
that.
I'm going to type, yeah, I'm going to type my email address into the chat, and you can just email me, and I'll put you in touch with the delightful Julianne Tobin from Overdrive Australia, and she'll get everything arranged for you. So, yeah. Well, Andrew, what's next for you in terms of promoting the book? What have you got coming up? Where can we see you on social media? Where can we find you?
I might be going over to Melbourne to sign a few. I might meet my Italian swearing consultant when I'm over there, so that would be good. Um, I'm talking at the York Regional Writers Festival on Saturday. That's coming up next. And there's a ABC Big Day of Books, which was just announced today, which in 28th of June, which I'm very privileged to be one of the panelists on.
Fantastic. Oh, Andrew, it's been a pleasure to chat to you. Thank you very much for all your very generous answers and also for sharing that extract with us. It was great to see. So, the Monticello School of Swearing is still available on Libby till the end of the month. It's the top pick and it's available with no holds. So, and thank you very much for being a part of it. It was wonderful. Yeah, and thank you to Overdrive, Libby, and the State Library of WA, and everybody for joining us tonight. It was great to have your questions in the chat and being part of this community. There's a Facebook page for Libby Book Club. If you want to check it out, you'll see my face there. And if you join our Facebook group, this recording will actually be on YouTube, and I'll share the link, so you can catch up and all the great answers that Andrew gave us. Andrew, thank you very
Fantastic.
much.
Oh, I loved it. Fantastic. Thank you.
Good night, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Have a great evening or rest.
Buonasera.